The manhwa starts off with a rundown city, and a man sighing. Saying he's annoyed, he walks forward while looking around, asking why something or someone is fleeing all the way to here. He sees some dogs munching a body. Then he says found him, but looks like he's become a Scooby snack. The man says this is a spectacle. A window pops up saying the dogs are staring at him, and their names are just numbers. The man sighs saying their naming sense is horrible. The dogs howl then all leap at the man. As they go to swipe him, he activates two abilities, addition and multiplication buffs for his damage, slicing the monster's heads off. A bit later we see a giant gate. The man bangs on it saying to open up, and we're introduced to a hard mode player named Jung-gun, just gonna call him June. He's happy to see the man, and the man says he's annoyed that he needs to keep doing stuff like this, and asks if someone else can do it. June says he's the only one who can do it, then asks where the guy he was meant to get is. The man says he was turned into a chew toy. June is surprised because the dead dude was a hard mode player. The man says the monsters were AA ranked. June is surprised and thankfully explains to us how one A rank monster can kill a hard mode player. So 3 of them is dangerous. June asks where the monsters are, and the man says he killed them all. June says alright, and the man says it's time to go eat. Then June says he can be honest, and tell him that he isn't an easy mode player and he'd believe it. We finally learn the man's name is Kang Taizan. Of course he's an easy mode player. Taizan tells him that he can just ask any of the other people who exited the labyrinth with him. June says all the other easy mode players are dead, and the ones who do appear just die instantly. June asks how an easy mode player even survived here, saying that even the normal and hard mode players are struggling. June says it's crazy how strong Taizan is since he's a hard mode player, but doesn't even compare to him. Taizan thinks for a second, then tells him they just half-ass their clear, and they walk off together. At the cafeteria, which is just a nasty tent, Taizan asks why they keep only eating potatoes. June says they are the most cost-efficient for them to make with their simple cultivation skill. June asks him if he really didn't learn the cultivation skill. Taizan says of course not since they always had food in easy mode. They hear some people fighting outside. Taizan says it seems like another person cleared the labyrinth, and he's sure he'll be apprehended soon. June says he's a hard mode player so Taizan might need to step up. Someone else tells Taizan to quickly help. The player outside is going crazy asking how this is meant to be Earth, saying this must be a prank. Taizan opens the tent asking where Li Tian is, Yen for short. She's out on a mission. An alderman approaches the Mulder and tells him he needs to calm down and listen. But he gets punched in the face. Taizan says he'll deal with it, then warns June if he eats his food he'll kill him. Taizan tells the man that this is the reality of Earth now. The man replies saying there's no way this is Earth, asking how they didn't beat a few monsters. Taizan explains how most players who return go crazy because they can't accept the reality of Earth. It happens quite a lot, and it isn't easy for them to accept. Taizan sighs, then says he just needs to beat the shit out of the man. He asks for his name to send a battle request, and the man tells him his name is Li Changchun, and asks who he is. Taizan tells him, and the guy flames him saying he's just an easy mode player who spammed the community board. And asks if he doesn't know the difference between them will be as wide as heaven and hell. Taizan says to shut up and fight, as he's getting bored. Changchun gets annoyed and draws his sword saying not to blame him if he dies, then puts a lot of buffs on his blade, you know the drill. The other players see he's used augmentation and power strike, and say he's strong. Changchun quickly dashes towards Taizan swinging at him. It creates a massive explosion from it hitting Taizan. But Taizan has an ability to completely nullify the first strike, so he receives 0 damage. Changchun is surprised. As the smoke from the attack begins to settle, we see Taizan actually caught his blade with his hands. Changchun says he's never heard of such a broken skill, and struggles to pull his blade back. Taizan says it's his turn, and swings at him. Changchun's skill blocks half of the damage, but of course Taizan has a skill to do true damage, dealing 49 damage to Changchun. He sees how little damage it did and is relieved saying that he won't be able to make up the stat difference. Taizan says his health is probably over 10,000. Right. And then he doubles his damage, then squares it. Big maths. Changchun says to wait, Taizan says to shut up. Then lightly taps him on the back of the head. It instantly shoves him straight into the ground with so much force it breaks the ground apart like an earthquake hit. Dealing 9,600 damage, or generational brain damage. Taizan says hopefully he understands now, this is real. Changchun screams, and struggles to get up, saying to stop screwing with him. He begins to cry, asking why the world is like that, and says it'd have been better if he didn't clear the labyrinth. Now we get some world lore. It was peaceful and then suddenly the sky split apart and monsters began to pour out of it. You guys know how it goes by now. Humans were then given choices between easy, normal, hard, and solo modes. For their labyrinth difficulty, after clearing it on that difficulty they could return to Earth. But nobody expected it to be on the verge of destruction from all of the monsters. Kaizen says he needs to wake up, and realize their only choice now is to save the world. Jun tells him good work. Kaizen is surprised he actually watched. Jun says he's incredible for one-shotting a hard mode player. Kaizen asks what's special about beating a weakling. Jun says he's just him. Then asks how he got the multiplication skill. And then asks about the true damage skill, and the other cheat-like skill to block the first hit. He asks how he got such unique skills. Kaizen says through hard work. Then they hear some people going pog crazy, and wonder if another new player arrived. We see a woman walking away from boxes full of materials, and that's Yun who was mentioned previously. It cuts to Kaizen looking at some kind of dinosaur fossil, or monster-like. He's low-key annoyed that she's still worried about decorations even while humanity is becoming extinct. We see the Last Supper, and he says all of this is only possible because of the fact she is the only person to have cleared solo mode. He asks why a woman like her is the strongest in the world, and we see her sitting in a chair. She says that this is her hobby, and maybe he needs to get a hobby too. He says they can talk about it when they have time, and asks why she wanted him here. She says she heard about what happened, and she always finds it weird to hear him bodying hard mode players. We see her stats are hella high, at least 5 times the hard mode players, but her status says she is scared. He asks if she's bragging. She says that she's just checking something, and to open his stats too. We see that her stats are infinitely higher than his are. She says he's as weak as expected. He asks if she's picking a fight, and she says it was just a stray. But his stats are really good for an easy mode player. We finally get some more world lore, about the difficulty. As soon as a player leaves the labyrinth they cannot grow anymore, which is why there are such differences between the players. A normal hard mode player has 10 times Kaizen's stats, but none of them could endure a single blow from him. Which is of course due to his cheat skills. She tells him to stay still for a moment and begins to imbue power into a pen. She used augmentation and doubles her attack, and an ability to guarantee the attack will hit. She slashes at him. Kaizen doesn't bother moving, but the attack just goes through him anyway. We learn skills can be obtained regardless of difficulty, and of course his are broken. He asks why she did that. As the attack was nullified it did 0 damage. She says she just wanted to do it. She starts to say some of his skills, and asks how many he has. He tells her he has around 230 skills. She says that she wishes the rest explored and tried to develop as many skills as he did. He tells her it's all in the past. She says that isn't necessarily the case, and they might have been able to win if he played in solo mode. Since even though his skills are strong, most of them use his stats as a base. Many players regret that he was only an easy mode player. He tells her to stop talking about it, and get to her point. She says alright, and that the next wave will begin soon. He realizes that means they are screwed, and explains a bit how during waves the mobs attack in hordes. Humanity lost soul in the first wave, half of the hard mode players died during the second wave, and they only managed to protect a small city during the third wave. And now it's time for the fourth wave. He asks her how many. She tells him there will be 2 S ranks, an apostle and of course A and B rank monsters. Kaizen thinks about how even Yun struggles against S ranks, and they are short on people who can deal with E ranks. But there's an apostle too. He wonders if this is even doable, and she tells him to fight the 2 S ranks. He asks if she wants him to die, and she says that he's the only who can do it. Since she has to fight the apostle. He goes to leave saying she's a pain. She asks if he's going to tell the rest. He says they need to be prepared, and asks if she wants them not to know. She says it may be the happier option. He says he disagrees. Then he leaves. She says that she knows he's strong, and he could lead them to victory. Then she calls herself a coward while holding a purple stone. It jumps to Jun saying damn, and we hear a lot of people crying and screaming. Kaizen asks Jun how he's feeling, and he says he's accepted it and they've already lasted longer than he thought, and this is a blessing so far. Kaizen says blessing my ass, he's going to die. He sees Chang Chun down below them. Jun says poor guy. He must have suffered so much after clearing the labyrinth only to immediately have to deal with it again. Then asks Kaizen how he's feeling about this. He says he knows he's probably the angriest one here, since if anyone else tried half as hard as he did, humanity would be fine. Tyson says yeah, he's hella mad that they laze through the labyrinth. A crack appears, and monsters begin to pour out from it. Like a lot of monsters. June says that's nuts, and asks Tyson what he's fighting. He tells him about the S ranks. June says he'll see him in the afterlife, and that Tyson is for sure dying first, so wait for him there. Tyson says sure, then uses a skill called Large Leap to jump off the wall. As he soars in the sky above the city, he uses a skill to survey the area, and he sees on his minimap where the enemies are. He spots 2 dots that are different from the rest, which means they are the S ranks. He lands between the both of them, and asks if they are ready. Status windows begin to appear checking for fear and instant death, but he passes all the checks. Which activates a skill called Iron Will. He readies himself, and tells the monsters it's time to start. He walks towards the monsters, and says he hopes they aren't the defensive type. He used a skill to check, and of course Monster 7 is a defensive type with 148 million health. It jumps up then body slams straight into the ground, landing where Tyson was. He dodges using time acceleration, and says this is going to take forever. Then he wonders what type the other monster. Its name is Monster 5 and it's a long-range attack type, it only has 1 million health. He says that's doable, then swings its tentacles at him. He quickly evades each tentacle while slicing them repeatedly. Each slice is only doing 30 to 40 damage a hit. He realizes the tentacles have damage reduction, so he leaps towards 5's head. 5 notices this and starts to cast a beam with its tentacle, completely blasting everything in front of it. Of course our cheat-like Tyson takes no damage, but realizes dodging that will be impossible. Unless he predicts the trajectory, which he does. He starts to fluidly dodge all of the skill shots, and dives straight back into 5, saying that he cannot drag this out any longer. He stabs it in the head dealing 50 damage, but 5 starts to zap him, and it hits Tyson. But his ability nullifies the second attack too, and the monster is surprised wondering where he is. Only to look up and find Tyson about to strike. But 7 jumps in front of him, and he realizes this is why they came out together. The ranged one hides behind the defensive type. But he doesn't care. He taps 7 and activates a battle skill, which puts a barrier up around them. 5 goes to blast, but we see it's useless. As only 7 can attack Tyson for the next minute. He thinks about how easy it would be if Yun were here since she has hella stats and legendary gear. He activates big math on his sword, and his true damage. He explains that Yun would just kill 5 and then slowly kill 7 after. But he cannot do that, since if he actually takes any damage he'll just be dead. He realizes he won't do enough damage, so he uses a skill to reset his skill for multiplication, which will allow him to deal a ton of damage. He dives straight into 7's mouth, and says 9,600 squared still won't be enough, so he activates a skill to let his next attack hit twice. And he stabs 7, dealing 92 million damage, and then the second attack does the same amount, instantly killing it. 5 takes the chance to attack him, dealing 22,000 damage to him, but he has a skill that allows him to ignore a fatal attack, and reduces all incoming damage to 0 for 5 seconds. He begins to stagger, but now he's out of big attacks. He stabs 5, and says the plan is simple, dodge then attack then repeat. But the problem here is that he only has 20 MP left, so he can only use basic attacks now. With 5 having 1.2 million health, and each attack only doing 48, he has to attack it 25,000 times. We see the day shift to night, and slowly but surely 5's health begins to decrease as he slowly fights it. He finally gets it to 100,000 left, and is hella gassed out. But lets out a roar, and continues the fight. A window appears saying that he's in a complete state of concentration, and his mind and body are one. And that a power has been imprinted on his soul. So he's obtained a soul skill called Soul Quality Increase, but since he's already out of the labyrinth the skill gets sealed. He tells the window to shut up, and we see 5 barely alive. He stabs it between the eyes one final time, killing the monster. Tyson struggles to remain standing, and a window says the gods are in astonishment at his feat. Tyson ignores it, and wonders how long he's been fighting for. Saying it felt like it's been a month, with his legs shaking, he slowly drags himself away from the fight, and starts heading back to their base camp. After some time he sees on the minimap one giant red dot, and that the base is in complete ruin with nothing but bodies around. He says they bragged so hard about being hard mode players, so why is the easy mode player the only one left? Why did he have to win only to find them all dead? He finds June's corpse, and says it looks like he wasn't the first to die after all, and he starts to feel survivor's guilt. With a gloomy look he sees a corpse that's been crushed into a wall. It's none other than Yun, who died while fighting the apostle. The apostle begins to form on the floor in front of her body, and starts to rise up. The gooey mess begins to turn into a different form, and the status window is full of errors. Tyson says he's tired of the window already, and he resists the apostle's instant death check. Then he stabs the apostle in the side, and grits his teeth. Then shouts, saying to bring it on. Tyson stands there after stabbing him, then realizes he's screwed as a red circle appears below him, then stabs him in the chest. He says this is how it ends. He lands back on the ground, and a window says he'll be forcibly kept alive for a minute. He wishes they'd just let him die in peace. Since he can't feel his lower half anymore, his spine must have been severed. Fortitude only delays his death, it doesn't heal him. The apostle goes over Yun's body, and Tyson says damn, since he knows he's done for. And he starts to regret choosing easy mode. A crack appears in the sky and a hand begins to come out of it. Tyson says no, then starts to crawl forward while crying blood. He starts to think about how everyone else should have tried half as hard as he did. Then they might have not had to struggle in vain up until the end. He starts to lose consciousness and stops moving. He says the past is the past. He should just accept it, as there's no use in blaming others. This is where it all ends for the world. Inside of Yun's hands the purple gem begins to glow. He sees then as he's passing out, and he realizes she died trying to protect it. He starts to crawl forward again, and tells the apostle to wait there. He activates a skill called Last Chance, so he can use one skill now. He activates Time Stop, and begins to crawl forward during the 2-minute duration and opens Yun's hand. The stone is called the Ouroboros Bezoar. It can turn back the time of someone just once. He's surprised, and wonders why Yun had this with her. The crack in the sky opens more, and Tyson resolves himself to use it and says, "See you later, bitch." As the giant monster goes to eat him, he activates the Bezoar. He sees himself when he was young, and how he was cursed by his parents for being born. They'd use him to relieve their stress. He always thought he had no worth, which is what led him to choose easy mode. But now he understands his talent, and his own worth. So he won't make the same mistake. He opens his eyes, and is surprised to find himself in his rundown apartment that's full of trash. He grabs onto his phone, and sees that it's still New Year's Eve, and tomorrow is when the labyrinth will open. He somehow finds pizza and is munching it. He's glad to finally eat something that isn't a potato. He starts to think about why Yun would have this item, and why she didn't even use it. Since Yun was a coward who always ran away, he opens his door to go outside. And says it's almost time, and that everyone in the world must be counting down right now. Thinking that things are about to get better for them, but in reality it couldn't be further from the truth. A crack appears in the sky, and the civilians wonder what's going on. We see a monster begin to come out of the crack. Tyson looks up at it and says it's just a B-rank monster, but it's time to start. The status window appears and says that their world will be destroyed by invaders, and the weapons they have now will not be of use against them. They start to cover it on the news. The window says do not worry, as a merciful being has taken pity on them, and has decided to give humanity a chance. They will all be able to choose and enter the labyrinth, clear it, and earn the power to save the world. Tyson says this isn't mercy, it's just entertainment for the gods. He goes to pick his mode, and says it's time to head out now. We get a little more world lore. Easy mode, they are blessed with food and rest areas, and even frail people can clear with little effort. Normal mode, food is rarer and there are less rest areas, but as long as you don't fall into despair you can clear it. Hard mode, the food and rest areas are really lacking and monsters will throw their lives away to kill you. Unless you get some form of safety you will not clear it. Then finally, solo mode. It's a mode where you are alone, you cannot meet anyone from your world. The only things you can see are hostile beings, monsters and normal NPCs. It will require luck, talent, wisdom and strategy. The window tries to warn him not to pick solo mode, but he ignores it, saying to wait for him. Then picks it and enters the labyrinth. He's teleported into the middle of a city. He looks around the city and sighs, saying he's returned here once again. He instantly sees a message on the community board. It's someone named Kang John Hyok, Yok for short. Tyson says he's surprised there's a post, and the man is quick-witted. Tyson tells him good luck and that's it. He says there's no point in using the board now, and he'll use it later. He says he has something to check, and he recalls talking to Yun about the NPCs. In easy mode they just repeated their answers. He asks what they were like in solo mode, and Yun said they acted freely like they were real people. We see a man sleeping against a wall. Tyson says he's the gatekeeper of the labyrinth. But in the other modes he was an older man. The gatekeeper says he's surprised someone is here. He thought it would take at least a month. Taizen can instinctively feel how strong the gatekeeper is, and that he's stronger than Yun. The man introduces himself as Broken Man. Taizen asks about his name. And Broke explains that those who fail their attempts become gatekeepers. But he guesses that Taizen heard the gist of it outside. His world is facing destruction by invaders. It's an opportunity the Transcendent is giving them. Broke says that just being annihilated would have led to a happier ending. Taizen thinks that the NPCs in this world have come from worlds that have already been destroyed. Broke notices that Taizen is unnaturally calm, and wonders why he isn't just freaking out. He was planning to beat him up, but now he's not showing a response. Broke says some people call it a tower, others a labyrinth that doesn't matter. There are 100 floors, and every 10 floors it changes majorly. He'll have to deal with food and water himself, and find information out himself as well. Taizen asks if that's all. Broke asks if he wants to explain the floors individually, saying he can buy info from someone inside. Taizen recalls Yun warning him that the gatekeeper was annoying and that he beat her up. Which is why he's not saying anything. Broke starts to make a rift with his fingers, saying he'll explain the basics. He pulls some stuff out of it, including a spear, which he swings at Taizen. But he intentionally misses and waits to see how Taizen reacts to it, but he doesn't show any reaction. Broke smiles, and says take it. Handing a sword and some armor to Taizen. Who tells Broke that it's copper, which annoys him. But then he starts to think about something. Taizen asks what it is, but Broke says it's nothing. Then hands him a wrist protector. Taizen says that Yun never mentioned this. Broke tells him he'll be getting a few skills and stuff, but he can all check it out himself. Taizen says okay and walks in. Broke wishes him good luck. Broke thinks about how Taizen was smiling like he was excited for the labyrinth. He says he's met countless challengers who were called geniuses, but none of them were able to clear the labyrinth. But Taizen is different. It isn't talent or skill but more foundational. It's his will to survive. He says it'll be good if he lives. As Taizen walks in, he gets a window explaining that the labyrinth was created by a great magician, and there are rumors if you clear it you will be granted a wish. It's a sealed world filled with things that are meant to oppress the challenger, but if they succeed, eternal glory awaits. Taizen sees a bright light, and has arrived on the first floor. Which is grody as hell. Taizen says it's time to start his second life. Floor 1 starts with a window saying to defeat the boss and pass. We get a flashback of Yun asking Taizen if he had a shopkeeper in easy mode. He says of course. She asks what they were like. Taizen says he was a simple merchant where he bought potions from. She says in solo mode they sell a lot more than potions, and she shows him a bracelet that she bought. She says there was a lot more than this, but she didn't have enough gold for them. She says if he could have bought the items then he'd be stronger than her. Taizen only paid half attention during that time, but it didn't matter back then. He opens a door to see an old man, smoking a pipe, saying he didn't expect anyone so soon. A window appears, saying he's met the lost king. Taizen greets him politely, and the shop gramp says it looks like he's got some wits. He asks for his name, and Taizen introduces himself, then asks if he's the shopkeeper. Of course he is. Taizen looks around and says that there's nothing in the shop. And we see it's hella empty. Shop gramp smirks, saying if he wanted to display all items the entirety of floor 1 wouldn't be enough. And he has no intention of showing him anyways. Taizen asks why he's here then. Shop Gramps gets angry, asking if he thinks he's here because he wants to be. He says he lost his kingdom because of this insanity and now he's suffering here for nothing. But he doesn't want to show his children to a brat who doesn't know anything. But if he can prove his worth that may change. He points to a corridor, saying if he goes in there and comes back out alive he'll show him his children. Taizen realizes the condition to purchase is just survival. He double checks it's all he has to do. Shop Gramps awkwardly stares at him, and says he's a weird one for sure. Taizen repeats his question, and Gramps says it's not that. Then Taizen says he'll be going then. Gramps wonders how he's so confident. And says it must be his Alzheimer's because he forgot he's him. He says it won't matter since he probably won't come back alive. Taizen starts to head down the corridor. He says so far the layout is identical to easy mode, and so far there aren't any dangers. Then he hears a rat screeching, and realizes that isn't true. He turns around to see a rat the size of a cat. It leaps at him. He says this was the boss in easy mode. And it bites him, dealing 10 damage. Taizen says the big rat's defense is low, but it's insanely quick so it took them a lot of time to defeat it. He attacks at the big rat, but it avoids it. He says it's as fast as he remembers. When they fought it in easy mode, The players worked together to chase it into a corner, then tired it out. But now he's alone, and his stats are lower than back then, so logically it's impossible to fight. Even Yun ran away from it at first. All of the players who were in solo mode, none of them fought with the big rat on the first floor. Now Tyson understands what Gramps meant by the coming back alive thing. Tyson starts to fight the big rat. While it bites him, he counterattacks but gets dodged. Tyson lifts his sword up, then stabs right toward the big rat, narrowly missing. The big rat backpedals to create distance. He says if he can't keep up with speed, then he needs to predict where it'll move. He starts to read the big rat's body language, and once he sees it prepare to move, he strikes at it. This intimidates the big rat, making it unable to think. Tyson straight up flames it for being dumb, and he says since it can't reach his ankles, it'll go for the next obvious spot. Which of course he leaves his wrist in a position for it to bite. The rat takes this chance to leap at him. Once it bites him, he lifts it up saying it's dead now. Then slams it against the floor, stabbing it in the chest. He repeatedly stabs it until it's dead, then we see him head back to Gramps. He's surprised, and Tyson says he's back while holding a bag of rat meat. Gramps drops his pipe seeing that Tyson survived. Tyson asks if he wanted him to die or something, and puts big rat materials on the counter. Tyson says since he's a shop, surely he buys stuff too, right? Gramps is still so surprised he killed one. He thinks about how he hunted the rat and butchered it extremely well, and how it was all done by someone who just entered the labyrinth. Gramps says he meets the requirements, so he'll open the shop. Tyson asks what he sells. Gramps says just say what he needs. Tyson asks if he has a tower shield, and Gramps asks why he wants a shield out of everything. He says so he can just crush the rats. Gramps says he likes the answer and places his hand on the wall. It turned golden and begins to open something. Then Gramps pulls out a tower shield asking if this one is good enough. Tyson says this quality is something from the 7th floor. Gramps tells him how much it is, and Tyson realizes he's short. He goes to head back into the dungeon to farm, but the Gramps just throws the shield at him saying he'll give it to him for free. And with how much gold he has now, there's a few things he can buy. He pulls out some potions and other items, then puts them on the counter for Tyson to choose from. But he says this is nothing like what Yun told him, so he asks why he's going so far for him. Gramps says he's just trying to be nice, and to think of it as an investment, and to stop being so noisy. Pick some items to buy. Tyson inspects the potions, saying there are some for increasing speed, others for healing. But he doesn't need any of those right now. While he's heard how hard potions are to get in solo mode, they are mostly used in the higher floors. So these potions must be a trap of some sorts, or a test. And he should buy more items instead right now. He sees a bow saying he'll need to attack from afar, and it'll come in handy. He asks how much the big rat leather is, and Gramps tells him. Tyson says he'd like to sell it and buy the bow. Gramps smiles widely with satisfaction, and hands him the bow and arrows. He asks Tyson if he knows his health won't increase in the labyrinth. He says yes. Gramps then informs him of something called the Spring of Life here on the 1st floor that will heal him an infinite number of times, and that he'll mark the location on the map for him. He also tells him there will be a crazy old man there, but it shouldn't be a problem. He recalls how Yun told him the Gramps told her about it too, but he flamed her the entire time. So why is his attitude suddenly so different? He wonders if it's because of their methods. Yun couldn't kill the rat, so she ran away. But of course he didn't run, and killed it. He pins a rat with his shield, asking if this is the reason. Then we see him damage the rat over and over, killing it. He says he has too many questions, including the soul quality skill he has. We see it increases agility by once. Back when he killed the first big rat, he wondered why he was spammed with status windows. Aside from basic skills, he earned a lot of skills he earned on the 20th and 40th floor in easy mode. He says this is totally unfair, then notices that soul quality was maxed out. The skill says he will steal some of the opponent's power. He remembers now that he got it from killing the S ranks, but he didn't check it since he was too tired and didn't receive the skill due to not being in the labyrinth. But he kept it when regressing, and he decides not to worry since he'll just continue to grow stronger. He heads towards where Gramps marked on the map, and encounters another big rat. He says he guesses it's typical to run into them in the corridors, but we see there are multiple of them, and now he is surrounded by raticates.